So just when you thought the Charlie Kirk assassination story couldn't get any darker, it does. Police have been talking to someone else, they just didn't let you know until right now. Another individual connected in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But not just any other individual. No, the partner of Tyler Robinson. I warned my audience, and I'll warn you, that this story will continue to develop, and we here try not to jump to any conclusions. We let the stories develop over time. It's critical that you do that because of moments exactly like this, because this story just took, well, a very unusual and disturbing turn, and it's a story I'll bring you in 1 minute. We all know now Tyler Robinson, identified, 22 years old, facing capital murder and weapons charges. As more details continue to emerge in this storyline, some I will warn you of, there's many different avenues that many different people are pressing. I here try to qualify every angle that comes out, and I wait for multiple sources to report on things and qualify those before I ever bring them to you. And it's been difficult in this story. Emotions are running extremely high, but now Fox News, Brooke Singman reporting. Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson lived with his transgender partner, sources now reporting. The individual, who is a male transitioning to a female, is fully cooperating with the FBI. Sources tell me the FBI had text and other communication between Robinson and the individual that helped FBI authorities solidify that Robinson was indeed the shooter. I bet you didn't expect to hear that this morning, did you? I mean, the rumors were everywhere from one particular party that, this was potentially a MAGA individual. Someone driven by the MAGA party. Which everyone knew, of course, wasn't true. And nonetheless, it appears now that story is getting shredded further and further from reality, as it always was far from reality. But as more details come to focus, as another element I'm about to cover for you, there's going to be a lot more questions you're going to have. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, lived with transgender partner. Federal and state authorities revealed during a Friday press conference that a roommate cooperating with their investigation revealed communication from a contact named Tyler that described bullet casings similar to those found at the scene and discussed the need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point. But we didn't know much more than that, did we? Until now. The same person, allegedly now, that was communicating with them on Discord, according to court papers. Well, now we can kind of tie all this together, thanks to Brooke Singman. The last question Charlie Kirk asked, remember this, do you know how many? He was asked this question. Do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years? Charlie replied, too many. He was then asked, do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America? And if you remember, he answered that by saying counting or not counting gang violence. And then his life ended. Well, that takes on a whole new meaning now, doesn't it? Now that the story's been put into focus for you. Now you can have your own opinions on the FBI. I'm about to give you mine, and it's not going to be positive, I'll tell you that. But I'm also going to try to keep this on an air of moderation, knowing that these things do have to develop over time. So before I finish, though, I want to thank each and every one of you. As many of you know, I hope you do, Lisa has her channel here, which you'll see me occasionally fill in. I have my channel that we'll put a link just above to. I hope you'll subscribe to it. And over the last week, between the two of us, we've touched a lot of people's lives because of Mr. Kirk. Because of what Charlie did. Because we're not going to let this go silently into the night. We are going to cover it responsibly. And we're going to continue to bring you updates. I can't tell you what's happened at my channel, our other portion of Restricted Republic, and how rapidly it has grown over this week because people appreciate a moderated news style. Right now you are seeing a mass amount of dissension, a mass amount of emotion. I just want the facts. And I'm going to provide those to you as Lisa does. If you think you're subscribed to her channel, I certainly hope you'll double check. Make sure your bell is checked to all. Also, we work day and night to bring you news, and we created another news platform, our news platform, to assure we could bring you everything that's, sometimes not allowed by rules and regulations on some of the public platforms. So to adhere to those and to respect those, we created our own news platform. Not only where we re-air these broadcasts, but also where our exclusive content resides. Exclusive content that we feel is very critical always for your understanding of what's happening in this world around you, to keep it very black and white, yet high level, easy to understand, but helps give clarity to the confusion that surrounds things that don't need to be confusion. We would love you to go there today. But now, let's get back to this broadcast. With the headline, it was breaking. As we were recording this segment, we had to change everything. Charlie Kirk assassin lived with transgender partner. Just after Trump was praising Kash Patel, I'm curious as to what you and how you feel about Kash Patel's response to these events. Do you feel he's been forthright enough in the information provided to you with enough clarity? Or do you think other individuals have assured that this assassin was brought into custody? Was it the FBI's doing, or was it the father's doing? Because now we're learning that there was other elements that they weren't communicating with us at all about. They were keeping us in the dark. Maybe that's because the investigation had to develop further. Maybe. Not going to be an armchair quarterback on legal issues such as this. But there's also elements to this story that needs to be made a little clearer, because remember, throughout the week, we are hearing one side who wants to distance themselves as far as humanly possible from what's happening. So far as to go is to state the assassin was MAGA. And as ludicrous as that story may sound, well, now it's even further from the truth, isn't it? We heard about anti-fascist carvings, markings within the bullet casings, and I'm sure you've seen the details, so I'm not going to cover all of it for you. But it becomes ever more clear as each day that goes by that there was extreme anti-fascist sentiment surrounding Tyler Robinson. Now that we understand deeper some of these Discord messages, I actually saw one posting that said it's almost as if his digital footprint didn't exist, trying to tie it back to the Butler, Pennsylvania shooter. These cases, in my opinion, have no similarities whatsoever. This one's appearing a little bit more black and white, except for one element, falling in line with something that's happening in this great Republic of the United States for a very long time. A radical element of our society that is rising up. But the only way we can confront it is through information. The only way we can learn about it is through clarity. Clarity such as this high-powered rifle being found in the woods. This high-powered purported murder weapon found in the woods. To be more specific, as reported, the ATF and other law enforcement located an older model imported Mauser caliber bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel. As a matter of fact, they provided a picture of that rifle. Now, those of you who handle firearms or understand firearms would understand the specifications of this rifle. To be more specific, that rifle measuring approximately 42 to 44 inches, even though we haven't yet been given the exact model. Now, round numbers would put that slightly shorter than 4 feet long. Now, anybody who's seen the footage may start to question exactly where the shooter was holding that rifle as he fell off the roof or jumped off the roof. Now, I've reviewed the footage fairly carefully, and there may be some indications, such as this picture, going full screen now, that maybe it was just simply bad camera angles, because at one point it does appear that there is something he is holding in a backpack, and maybe it is just the granularity of the video itself. So we will continue to wait to maybe be given some more information by the FBI, because I've seen people say that he broke down the weapon immediately after firing it. And folks, I just don't find that feasibly possible, even if modifications were made for that to happen that quickly. And this is how we watch the news as it develops. We'll give you indicators early on and then watch them develop further. A 7-pound rifle, 42 to 44 inches long. Because it's critical to have clarity of information. The casings having markings OWO, and this has been somewhat misreported at times, but maybe not. Because again, we don't have clarity yet. We haven't heard from the assassin directly. Some stating this may have different ideologies attached to it. Some saying it's just simply, a furry culture. Something that many of you probably may or may not have ever heard of. So I won't go into a great bit of detail. But now it appears clarity behind that may be changing. Because now we've learned that his roommate, his partner, allegedly, according to reports, was a transitioning, transgender individual. So you can't have clarity to how any of this coexists without having clarity of information. And that is where I personally struggle at times to hold back on what we report or do or don't report, to be responsible. Because we know that these stories take time to develop, but how many of the markings and the indicators, such as the triple arrows that were now reported, existed in a gaming and meme culture. I just didn't even want to report it because it diminishes the severity of what happened to try to understand the mind of a maniac. And it is a maniac. Doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. A maniac and a monster is a monster. A demon is a demon. But what's bringing this up? And why would so many people focus on trying to push it to one ideology or another? Except for when there's a trend, a pattern. This anti-fascist uprising we continue to see over and over and over again. And now it appears the administration is starting to identify and communicate on it. The last message Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his creator in heaven was that we have to dismantle and take on the radical left organizations in this country that are fomenting violence. And we are going to do that. Stephen Miller stating that to Sean Hannity. And now President Trump announcing that they're going to take a deeper look into George Soros because he thinks there may be a RICO case against it, just so happening after a meeting with Bill Gates, who now suddenly decides that he's going to pull funding from Arabella Advisors, who just so happenly has been rumored to support and fund some of these radical demonstrations. But you see, folks, until you have the information to make an accurate assessment, it's difficult to piece these stories together. Until folks like Brooks Sigmund gives you exclusive reports that Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson lived with his transgender partner, sources tell me, and once this is vetted out and output on multiple news sources, the individual who was male transitioning to female is fully cooperating with the FBI. Sources tell me the FBI had texts and other communications between Robinson and the individual to help FBI authorities solidify that Robinson was indeed the shooter. Well, then that starts to paint in all these storylines a whole lot differently now, don't they? The story will go in a whole different direction, away from a storyline that many were trying to portray entirely different. And it's why you have to let them develop over time. But at the end of the day, the only image that anyone should be left with is a man who I've told people on my station I didn't always agree with. I didn't often cover. But that doesn't mean I didn't understand his importance and his relevance to opening up the political conversation to a generation that I don't reach out to generally. But he did. And he brought them into the political discussion. And that importance can never be understated. And so now his widow, left grieving. A family and children left without a father. For a man who just exercised free speech, who put himself in harm's way every time he did it. He didn't block anyone from speaking. He allowed all voices to be heard. But someone decided that his couldn't be. And there needs to be a greater understanding of why. How has certain individuals been so radicalized that they believe that it is truly okay and appropriate to take the life of an individual for simply exercising an opposing viewpoint? Folks, that is a question that should haunt each and every one of us, because that is not something that changes overnight. That is something that is your years, if not decades, in the making. In the absence of God, family, and country, you are left in a void of evil. And ultimate evil has taken the life of a patriot, a father, a man of great faith. And this great republic has suffered a great loss. And now we're finally starting to get the real information. And for whatever reason, it always appears we get it after the fact. We'll continue to bring you updates as they become available. We love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.